Hey guys, welcome to another episode in the playthrough of Microsoft Flight Simulator 220. The aim is first of all to not let the game crash. I already started this recording earlier and the game crashed in this introductory menu. So I'm just keeping it here to see if it will crash again. Just to make sure. But the other aim is to fly from Nice International in the southern part of France to Rome, do a bit of sightseeing over Rome as well, the Coloseum, the Vatican. There's a lot of cool, the pretty epic landmarks over there, of course. The weather over here is pretty bad, but if I looked at the globe in the main menu, it looked to be a bit better in Italy itself, so that's fine. The distance straight on in a straight line is about 250 nautical miles, being a little bit less than 2 hours of flight time, 1 hour 45. But I will probably also stick to not do a direct straight line. I will also do a bit of sightseeing across the southern coast of France and the west coast of Italy. So it will probably be a bit longer, so that will take a couple of episodes because I'm capping the episode duration at half an hour, because YouTube otherwise is very slow in processing large file sizes like 4K HDR. It's 85 megabytes per second bit rates. It quickly becomes a 20 gig file and YouTube takes forever to process those. So I will have to cap it at half an hour, so probably it will take 4 or 5 episodes. But yeah, that's the thorough approach, so to say. I'm also, for the first time, the second time, doing another plane besides the Cessna 152. My so-called, how do you call it, starter plane, in which I did quite a lot of flying, and this is the SR-22 Cirrus. Very cool plane. I really liked from the Cessna the maneuverability, the tininess of it really gave you the feel that you were flying with sharp controls. And that's why I was a bit hesitant to move over to bigger planes, because they give like less of the visceral feel of flying, like with a vibrating little lightweight single-seater plane like the Cessna compared to bigger planes. But this one, it's a little bit bigger. It is quite a lot faster. I mean, it can go, I think, 140, 150, 150 knots, while the Cessna did only like 100 if you were lucky. So, but it still is a pretty nice, snappy, small plane. So I am, pretty happy with it, and also with a very ergonomic, user-friendly cockpit. There's no cluttering and all kinds of confusing handles. It is quite streamlined, so happy with that. And that about wraps it up. Let's go. So here we are. At least the plane did not crash again in that introductory scene. So not a lot of buttons at all. Much is digitalized in the Garmin, I think G1000 or something, but even everything else, it is really clear. We have like mixture and power settings, fuel pump, fuel tanks. It's really weird. I didn't find a way to just enable both fuel tanks at the same time, so they deplete both and there will not be any imbalance into left and right tanks because of weight differences. But that's not possible, so I have to keep an eye on it and then switch over from left to right if the left one gets significantly emptier and lighter than the right one, to keep it balanced. Here are the flaps. Here we have actually the main buttons besides the digital flight management system, and that controls upwards. It's the, I think more like physical buttons for controls that you also have on the Garmin. To the right you have, for instance, range you don't have heading, but you can insert, yes, you have to the left over there. By the way, these two screens are totally identical, just redundancy, and you can have like different screens selected on both units, but they are the same units as far as I can see. You have like, to the left of this one, you have like a heading knob, which you also have over there, and the course knob, CRS, you also have over there. So this is also like a little bit extra. I would just lose it. Less is more, I would say. I understand redundancy, but if you have a heading knob over there, one seems to be enough, especially if you have two of these screens already. There is already redundancy. Anyways, there are, so that is like the navigation, the top parts. Then over here you have like a keyboard, which you cannot use. You can interact with these, but not with keys themselves, I think. Altitude selector, I guess this is. Then this is the flight management system, transponder, communication and navigation, selection. So this is more or less navigation and frequency selection for the communication, but everything there you also have here, like this little D menu, flight plan, proceed, clear, enter. You will have the little D menu, flight plan, proceed, clear, enter. It's just like a duplicate. I'm also doing this just for myself to get more to grips with this cockpit. Then over here you have Autopilot Controls, I think, heading, navigation, approach, autopilot. I think this is for level or something, to keep it level. Flight director, that is like, I think, an overview on your your regular screen with like your heading and bearing noted. Flight director, these are all advanced options that I will also still have to learn myself more. I will use that later on more probably, but now it's more like sightseeing and getting a feel for the planes. Down and up, no idea what that is, flaps or altitude. Anyways, we have an altitude button here. IAS, I forgot what this was. This is maybe vertical speed. 1 second. I will be quickly making that a learning moment, otherwise it will remain a question mark above my head and maybe yours. Autopilot, indicated airspeed, IAS I think is. Altitude, I think this is vertical speed, pretty sure it is, so that is the rate of descent or ascent. 1 second. Aviation VS, and that is, yeah, you have V speeds of course, but I don't think that is what this one means. Stall speed, could also be stall speed. Velocity S, stall speed. Anyways, I think it can, you also have like a vertical speed indicator in older cockpits, so this could very well be vertical speed indicator. But anyways, let's check V and V as well. Also probably some speeds. Meaning, and it is vertical navigation. Let the autopilot fly an entire sequence of courses and altitude from an IFR. So that is instrument flight regulations or rules, arrival, through all the steps down on an approach. So this is really like auto landing, vertical navigation, and I think this is vertical speed, but not sure. This is yeah, also navigation and communication, different I think for the sound effects in the cockpit. You have your volume, you have your TM, I think is test, and you have high and low frequency. This is for the beacons near beacon lights near airports for the landing assist systems. This is when you're reaching the outer beacon, it will light up. The medium beacon and the inner beacon, the closest to the airstrip, or on the airstrip, this is actually where it starts. Helps you navigate when it's poor visibility. This is how you want to have the communications in the plane set up. So isolated, everything is only isolated to the pilot, but you also have that all, so that it's through the speakers, everybody can hear it who is on the plane, and the other one is crew only. So then everything you do in, I assume your microphone will only be heard by the crew and not by the passengers. Here you can switch between communication device 1 and 2, navigation device 1 and 2. They're always, as far as I saw, double in airplanes, probably also again because of redundancy. Here you see another plane, and this is a bug I have found also with the developers. When I look out of my plane to other planes, they lose their windows and canopies. That one, it simply doesn't have a canopy. They're like in the open air. That's a bug that has been in the game since the start, since release. It's still not finished. I mean, I can imagine they have like super clean windows that you can hardly see them, but I really think they are simply missing. I don't see any canopy. So they're chilling out in the cold weather of January. Holding strong. Alright, so navigation 1 and 2. This is beacon markers, so that will probably have a sound effect if you pass them. ICS was, or this is the ADF. It's also, these are all like navigation system and navigation aids. So this is automatic direction finder. This is the distance measuring equipment, saying when you're closing in on an airport or a radio beacon, I think. Then you have ICS. I forgot about that one. This is speaker. I think this is auxiliary input, I guess. I think this is intercom system. Let's quickly check that out. Almost there. I was not intending on doing this long of an introduction, but it's also learning for myself. ICS intercom. Is that intercom? Let's quickly check it out. Oh man, those malware on phones, it's annoying. I think it's intercom system, but I'm not sure. 1 second. So Avionics recently completed an intercom system ICS modernization. Yes, I'm pretty sure this is an intercom system. So that is clear. And then we have auxiliary and speaker. And then over here you can, I guess, select your source for the audio. COM1, 2, even a 3. Here we only have 1 and 2. Here it's, I think, one primary, other secondary, and the other way around, or it's switching, I have no idea. And there's also like even a telephone, I assume, TEL button. And there is also like a swap button over there, and transmit, really, or light. So this is the main panel actually. For the rest there is a couple of like classical flight instruments. You have the airspeed and you have your altitude and your attitude indicator. So that it shows you the pitch and the roll and the altitude. It's more pitch and roll of your plane relative to the horizon. Over here you have the stick with the autopilot disconnect and press. I'm not sure what that does, but you have a disconnect and a press button, and this is push to talk for the intercom. Here we have the key. here we have a couple of buttons, really basic. It's the battery, we will put them on now. Battery 2, battery 1. I guess this is the alternator instead of a magneto, 1 and 2. And then we will enable the avionics on. Then we have the ice protect. It is January, it is moist. I am going to put it on because yesterday in flight testing I saw quite some icing on the wings. So let's put those on. Ice protect on normal or max. Let's keep it, I cannot interact with this one, let's keep it on normal. Pitot heat, I think that's also for the pitot tube. That's some kind of mechanism that I think used for measuring airspeed and stuff. So the amount of air molecules hitting the pitot tube is used to calculate the speed the plane is flying at. Of course you have no wheels relative to the ground like a car, so you cannot calculate your speed by that. So there is a pitot tube. Let's put that on so that it doesn't freeze. Then over here we have the lights, navigation lights, strobe lights and landing lights. Just landing lights we're taking off, but yeah, put some on as well. Also very cool in this plane is very granular control of the strength of lights of the several light sources in the plane. So you have your instruments, you can put them all the way down or you can put them all the way up, which makes it totally blinding when you're flying at night. So I will make it, put it like so. Then you also have like panel lights that you can put up all the way if you need to read something or something, or you just have to have like a little glow. But for now let's keep them off. And we have the overhead lights. This is more if you need to read something like a checklist or something, you can put it on. And that about wraps it up. This is for the co-pilot, same stick. Here we have like some heater controls. You don't really hear it. I was expecting maybe a fan sound to come up. Or does it come up? Maybe it does. 1 second. No. I don't think it does. Or do I do hear a difference? No, I don't think I do. Anyways, here's the heat. That's also for icing conditions. I think you need to put on the heat. At least that's what I remember reading on one airplane. These are the Garmin G1000s. And yeah, so this is navigation button, heading button. I'm also not really up to speed with this. I'm just learning as I go. Here's the volume. You can switch between communication 1 and communication 2. Here we have the course indicator and the baro. I have no idea what. Yeah, I assume it's a baro. Let's quickly check that out. So we do G1000 baro. Press the standard barometer to set baro. That's the barometric pressure, of course. That is for the that will change the mercury inches. That is the scale, I think. That is the pressure, air pressure, I think at ground level or standard air pressure, which then has an effect on the altimeter. Because of weather conditions, the air pressure can change, and that makes the altitude indicator go inaccurate. So you have to correct for that by manually adjusting the barometric pressure over here, and then that will recalibrate the altitude indicator and display the correct altitude above ground. And then over here we have push course. I think this is course control. I'm not sure what this is relative to, for instance, the heading button, but I will figure that out later. I'm flying more visually anyways, and we also have like this GPS map which makes navigating like a breeze. Here you have like range. You can use that for, what the hell is this? This is a card. You can use that, for instance, I will show you over here. Range you can use to zoom out or in, and the more you zoom in, the more detail you get with all these like radio beacons and stuff. Let's see how far you can go in. You can go in pretty far actually, which I didn't know that. That's handy for like taxiing on airways or airports, because I always get lost. Too bad there are no taxi lane signs over here, but it is what it is. Anyways, you can push it as well, and then you can scroll around, although it goes very slowly, but it is what it is. Yeah, so let's, no, like so. Hello, can we, so this is the way we zoom out. Let's do it a little bit more. So that is like the zoom level and the focus point of the map over here, and then here we have controls for the different sub-menus. Not sure what DC, let's also quickly check that one. DCLTR, so we do G1000 DCLTR. How was that? Thinking of that earlier. Removes everything except for the active flight plan. One second. I think it's some kind of a filter you can use on the screen. Now it doesn't really seem to do anything. One second. I would like to check it out, because otherwise aviation, it really exists by the virtue of abbreviations. Very annoying, but it's super confusing. Here I have like a manual, a pilot-friendly manual for the G1000W. So that should work out. So then we do DCLTR. Soft key to remove taxiway markings and airport identification. Right, but what the hell does the abbreviation mean? It is Save Taxi. This feature provides greater map detail on any of the pages that display the navigation view. At the time of this writing, it provides a detailed taxiway runway with numbers and ramp information at more than 700 airports. Press the DCLTR soft key to remove taxiway markings and airport identification. Press DCLTR1 to remove any VOR station ID and symbol along with intersection names. Press DCLTR2 to remove the runway layout if the airport is not part of the active route structure. Alright, whatever. Just freaking explain the navigation. The abbreviation. I find that totally weird. That stuff like that, it's all assumed that everybody knows them. Ah, now I found it. Instead of doing like a big list of abbreviations, you really have to look into the text for like super exotic abbreviations, meaning. But anyways, repeated presses of this softly toggles between the 4 levels of, you really could not come up with it, declutter. Alright, this is exactly why I find the whole aviation world super confusing, and it can really use a lot more of less is more, so to say. But anyways, declutter button. So this was this one, yeah, and this is just the menu where you can interact with the sub functions that are here. Here are only 2 sub functions, but in this one, for instance, you have a lot of functions. Course deviation indicator, all pretty cool. And you can interact with like these sub menus with this menu, of course, being exactly the same here. So you have the menu, it doesn't do anything now. This is like flight director, I think, but the problem is I pressed it earlier and now I've pressed it. You can, I think, insert a location, but what I found pretty difficult is to now it does disappear. Last time I used this, I had a hard time having it removed again, but now that goes fluidly. This is the proceed button, the flight plan button. So this is, I think, Nice, and this is, I forgot the name, but it's, I have it over here. Roma Fiumicino Leonardo da Vinci Airport, Rome International, that's where we will be going. Here we have the clear button, DFLT map, flight, directed flight map or something, no idea. FMS, I assume, is flight management system. Push is for the cursor, so you can push it and then you get like the, for instance, we do the flight director, and you push it and you get like the cursor, and then you can select stuff. You have like the outer and the inner ring. Can be a little bit annoying doing this when flying a shaky plane. So I don't really have keyboard shortcuts for this, so I really have to do it by the cursor and the mouse. But I won't be using it on this flight anyway, so it is just me slowly but surely getting to grips with it. Ground speeds, DTK, track, direction or something, expected time en route or something. DTK, 1 second. I'm also, that's the last one I'm looking up. DTK. Desired track. This is the track you need to fly to reach your next waypoint. And then you also have TRK, I think, which is track. Current track, that's your direction of travel over the ground. It has nothing to do with your current heading. In a strong crosswind, there could be a large difference between the two. Alright. Yeah, heading is the position of your aircraft over its, I think, longitudinal axis. I think compared to north. And track or bearing is actually the direction of travel, and that is not necessary. It's often the same, but not necessarily, because if you have like a crosswind, you can have to counter steer, which changes your heading. So the nose of your airplane changes direction, while your track or your path or your bearing stays the same. So that diverges from your heading. Your bearing and heading, or heading and track. I think track and bearing is more or less synonymous. They are mostly the same, but not necessarily so. So this is desired track and this is current track. And ETE, let's do that one as well. I think it's expected time en route or something. The cumulative ETA, something like ETA, expected time of arrival for the last waypoint of the flight. Estimated time en route. Alright, whatever. There are so many, it's crazy, abbreviations. Here, just one Google result. DTK, DIS, ALT, Fuel, RAM, ETA, ETE, BRG. It's amazing. Anywho, that's that. This is COM1, COM2 frequency. You can swap them out. This is identify. I think you can send that to a radio station or something, or an airport tower, so they can identify you. These are ways to search in this onboard computer flight management system, like facility, city. And this is, I think, the identifier. Like, for instance, each airport has like an identifier, and also each radio beacon, for instance, MN. So this is, I forgot, we also have like the, I'm also trying to learn that, the NATO alphabet. So this would be Mike November 04 Romeo, November Alpha 01, November, what's the I? India 01, Mike November 04 Lima, Romeo Whiskey 04 Romeo, Romeo Whiskey 04 Lima. So that are identifiers. Here we have some engine information, power output, RPM, rounds per minute, the or revolutions per minute. Your RPMs. What's another word for RPM? 1 second. Also making that a learning moment. This will be an introductory video anyways. I'm already hitting the half-hour marker. Was not expecting that to happen. So the actual takeoff will be in the next episodes. RPM synonymous. Yeah, I don't know. It's, revolutions or rotation frequency. Isn't there a word for RPM? Like just like miles per hour, that you have like the word speed for it. What's the similar equivalent word for RPM? What is another word for RPM? Rotation, revs. That's the one I was looking for. So these are your revs. This is the manifold pressure, I think. Here I think this is fuel flow. I assume we need to keep it in the green. Oil temperature in Fahrenheit. Oil pressure also needs to be in the green, I guess. Battery A, I think these are amps. And ESS bus, I think this is voltage of the main electronics bus, but let's quickly check that one as well. ESS bus. What is ESS bus? Provide power to critical instruments, communication and navigation equipment. Electronics. Right. Again, an abbreviation which is not clearly explained. so annoying. I think it's electronics system bus or emergency system. Alright, let's do abbreviation. There are so many abbreviations that it's almost like daunting stepping into a cockpit, especially as you're like a little bit, I wouldn't say obsessive compulsive, but curious like I am. But yeah, it takes quite some time and effort at the start, but yeah, slowly but surely it all becomes more second nature. For instance, now I know that this is vertical navigation, map, location, bearing, distance. I think bearing should be the same. Yeah, it's not the same as track actually. This is 323. That's probably because we have something selected here. I don't know. Activate, hold, declutter, course. Anyways, we were talking about ESS bus, and what we find is maybe it's just for essential. So essential power. So, yeah, AC generator to supply the AC essential bus. Yeah, I am assuming that it stands for essential. Or electronic switching system. I have no idea. It's just... No, I think it's essential. So that is over here, the voltage, and then here we have exhaust gas temperature and CHT temperature. That's the last one I will look up. CHT temp. Cylinder head temperature. Alright, good to know. That was quite a lot of learning moments, but yeah. You cannot really avoid it. Anywho, these were the two main displays, two equal flight management systems. For the rest, we really covered the whole cockpit, I would say. We covered the gauges, the buttons over here, there are some vents over here. The co-pilot flight stick, the primary piloting control flight stick, the key, so it's off, left and right and left alternator or magnetos, both, and then start. The systems, the heater, internal heater, like defrost the windows or have it like, yeah, just like in a car, the air directed to the upper body or lower body, the temperature, the fan strength. Here we had the yeah, communication and navigation input panel, which mostly also can be done on the Garmin flight management system. For instance, course here is also course there. Altitude selector, I'm sure that it's also somewhere over here. The altitude selector. Heading is over here, you also have it over here. Range, you have it here, but also here. The only difference is here you have like a physical keyboard. Then over here we have like the autopilot physical keyboard. I'm sure you can also input that over here, maybe with that flight director ability, functionality, I'm not really sure. And then over here you have like for the communications, like the I think the audio, what all will be heard and by whom. So you have COM1, navigation, markers, ADF, automatic distance, direction finder, DME, distance measuring equipment, the ICS was the intercom system, auxiliary speakers, so that is where the output will be. This is some kind of a selector. Here have the volume button and high-low frequency, and here you have, cannot really see that one. Yeah, whether it is isolated to only the pilot, to all the people in the aircraft, or only to the crew. Then you over here we had the throttle and the mixture to lean the fuel air mixture slider over here. Here you have like a boost function of the fuel pump, or the prime function, which prime you use before takeoff, I guess, and boost you have to turn boost pump on before switching fuel tanks. Whenever you switch the fuel tank from left to right, you have to boost it apparently. There's one thing we didn't cover. Here are the flaps. Flaps 50% and 100%, and with the indicated airspeed below which you can utilize the flaps. Above them, probably you will stress out the wings, because there will be too much drag created by the flap deployment. One thing we did miss yet is over here, and that is the alternate air functionality. That also has to do, I guess, with freezing possibilities. That if you use the regular default primary air intake, it can actually freeze up the air filter, and then for that there is an alternate air functionality. And the only thing is, what I read about it is that it can result in loss of power, like decreased power. But yeah, if that is really the way to avoid freezing, then of course a little bit less power is much preferred above a freezing intake. So that is this one. I'm not sure why it is default on the on position. I would put it to the off position for takeoff. Unless we really hit like freezing conditions, but yeah, it could be. But we already have the ice protection we have on, and the pitot heat we have on. Maybe we have to put on the alternate air as well, but yeah, let's just check that out how it goes. And then there's also here some kind of a switch, alternate air. So up, I don't understand. This thing, you can hardly see it probably, but it's alternate, and then alternate static source and normal. I'm not really sure what this one does. Let's quickly check that. 1 second. We do this one, apply, go back, redo. Where are my tooltips? Shouldn't there be tooltips? Put it on, right? Accessibility. I put menu tooltips on. I'm an idiot. Cockpit tooltips. And what we then see is switch to alternate static port valve. So here you have like pitot heat. I think that is the static port. You can heat the one, but here you can actually also switch to a different one. But for now it is the normal one. And so this is the alternate intake air, and over here, this is my cat joining party. Over here we have the parking brake. Alright, so that really much right about covers up this whole cockpit. It took an episode, but yeah, it's like a full cockpit, and compared to like even a Cessna, or which has much less functionality, but it seems to be much more easy to use, this cockpit, and especially compared to a commercial airliner, of course. It is a pretty clean place to be. I really like it, and also being close to the wings, with underneath wings instead of the overhead wings on the Cessna. I do like these lower wings better. I'm looking forward to this flight. let's do that in the next episode, guys. So I will mark this one also in the description of the video as purely like a yeah, more of like a training episode, or training, how do you say it, learning episode for myself as much as probably for the viewers, or maybe even more so than for the viewers. Oh, by the way, over here there's also like the old school magnetic compass, just as a failsafe, and then there's that little note over there where usually the magnetic compasses can have like a certain deviation, making them inaccurate, and especially when in non-level flight, and that card is used to note down the actual deviation, so it can be taken into account for an accurate reading. Just as much like the altimeter needs like the ground, the air pressure calibrated for an accurate reading, the magnetic compass has like a note card describing any deviations or inaccuracies per, I think, amount of steering. I think it is steering degrees or something. I'm not sure how this card works, but we will check that later. I think we are, by the way, it says Cirrus, France. We are in the home country of the manufacturer of this plane. That's pretty fun. And before going out, there's only one thing I forgot, and that is removing this screen as well. So this was the flight director, I think. Yeah, so that goes pretty easy. And also let's immediately turn off again the amazingly unimmersive tooltips, but if you need them they can be handy, so for a short reference. But for general flight, I'm really happy that they patched in the ability to disable them. At the release they were like persistent, and now luckily not. Also, before ending the episode, one more thing. I cat, people. My cat is yeah, looking around. I will quickly show you the plane from the outside. A really nice, small, streamlined plane. Looks a lot more modern than the Cessna 152, although I really like the Cessna, as mentioned at the start of the episode, because of its maneuverability, its small size. It really, yeah, I find it a really charming airplane. By the way, you can see what I mentioned with missing cockpit windows. When I'm in drone mode, like now, the windows are perfectly fine. It's only when I am back in my own airplane cockpit, if I then look at the windows of that plane over there, they simply have disappeared. So yeah, that is, and all the planes over there, every plane is missing a canopy or side windows or windshield. So that is just a really weird bug that yeah, is simply not fixed, even after like 4 months after release. But like for instance that plane, it's missing its windows. Anyways, once we're up in the air we will not notice that. Looking forward to the flight from Nice to Rome. Guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and for the meantime, yeah, hope to see you in the next one. For the meantime, do not forget, always do keep on gaming. See you later.